Hi everyone, Aidan here at the Trailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kuat Transfer V2 3-bike rack and seeing how it fits on the back of our 2022 Kia Carnival. This is going to be a platform style bike rack that can hold up to 3 bikes, and it's going to be one that holds a bike by the tire using a front wheel hook at the front and a wheel strap down at the bottom at the back. That means that when we're holding the bike, we're not touching the frame at all, making this a good option for carbon frame bikes and alternative frame bikes. And it does a pretty good job at getting a strong hold on the bike. But with the weight capacity, you're going to run into a little bit of a limitation. It can only support 40 pounds per bike. So if you do need something that's e-bike compatible, you will have to look elsewhere, which is pretty standard. If you start to go anything above a 2-bike rack, chances are you're going to lose e-bike compatibility. So if you do need that support for something like 60 pounds or more, look at some of the 2-bike options that we have on our site. And if you like the Kuat Transfer, just check out the 2-bike version of it. It's going to be the same thing, just with that 2-bike capacity instead of 3. Now, on the Carnival, there's a couple things we want to talk about first. The first being clearance. It is going to sit pretty close to the vehicle. I'll step around to the other side here and point out the handlebars. They do come very close to the back glass here. I will say we've got a very large mountain bike on there with wide handlebars, and there isn't too much front to back movement. I've definitely seen people running with much worse clearance than this, and sometimes we'll just stick a pool noodle on the end. But for me, I would drive with this. I think I'd be comfortable with it, but you might not be. That's okay. Just keep that in mind as you're checking this out. And to give a bit more of a frame of reference, our handlebars from the center to the end are 16 inches wide, so anything shorter than that, you're going to be just fine. And with the other clearance issue, it's going to be the tilt. So this does have the ability to tilt away with the bikes loaded. There's a foot pedal down at the bottom there, which, if you've got it fully loaded with bikes, can be hard to reach. But just push that, and that'll let you ease the rack down. It surprisingly does not hit the ground, but it doesn't tilt very far. So we run into this issue where we can only partially open up the back. I'm just going to leave it right there for now, because you can see very clearly it would be hitting the handlebars. But if you needed to sneak something inside, then you can maybe do that. Personally, I just run in through the back seat and try to grab whatever I need out there, or keep everything that I need to be accessible, maybe just more accessible in the middle. When you're done though, just lift it back up. You'll see that foot pedal lift back up and lock in, letting us know that we're ready to unload or drive away. I'm going to open this up all the way for the unloading process because the U-shaped design here allows us to get right up to the bike, making it a little easier to lift. First though, we need to take the back wheel strap off by pressing this button and pulling that ratcheting strap out. Once that's released, we can turn our attention to the front wheel hook, which, same thing, just hold onto the bike, press the button, push up and out. And once that's out, everything's fully released, you can just walk right up, get a good grip on it, and lift it up and away. Now luckily, because it sits pretty low to the ground, we're not lifting very high, but that does mean things like ground clearance will be limited, and we'll check that out in just a second. One thing you might also notice is the cradles. There's going to have multiple grooves in them for various different tire widths, which does help hold the bike in just a little bit better by cradling it. And when you're done, you can fold everything up in to itself. And I like to tuck these hooks behind the back cradle so they just don't pop up. And if you want to, you can always replace those back straps and see that those cradles do pivot to accommodate for different wheelbases. Now for some measurements, let's check out that ground clearance first. At the back end, right next to the locking point for our cable lock, our ground clearance is going to be 17.5 inches to the lowest point here, which surprisingly is pretty good. Your hitch sits really low to the ground on the Carnival, but there is a slight rise in the shank. But with this being a longer rack, I'd really watch out for steep driveways and hills. The other thing to check out is the distance we add to the back. Going from the bumper to the furthest point out, we're coming in at 43 inches, which for only 3 bikes is pretty big. I just watch out for it when you're driving around. The good thing is it does space your bikes out quite a bit, but it is going to take up a lot more room. When you're done though, use that foot pedal to fold it upright for easier storage. So whether you're keeping this in your garage, out of the hitch, or just leaving it on your vehicle all the time, it takes up less room this way and only sticks out 10.5 inches, which is a lot better. It does sit pretty close to the vehicle in this state, probably the closest point at the bumper over here right next to our backup sensor, which is 2 inches. There's not a whole lot of movement here, so I'm not worried about vehicle contact, but with it being so close to that sensor, it's probably going to be setting it off whenever you put the vehicle into reverse. One thing you're not going to be running into though is your backup camera. Again, because of this really open design, our backup camera is largely visible. Probably going to see this arm right here in the shot, but I still think it's going to be fully usable, and it doesn't block your license plate too much either. Our taillights on the side are slightly obstructed, at least on the passenger side, with the larger cradle in the way, but on the driver's side you see that they're very visible still and not too in the way. At the bottom, it's working with our 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube. You use a standard pin and clip. You can pick up a locking one separately if you want. You can find that here at eTrailer, but out of the box it doesn't come with a lock. It just comes with a specially keyed anti-rattle tool, which does help with security a bit, and at the end of the day keeps things nice and solid in the hitch. Overall though, if you're looking for a platform style bike rack that's fairly easy to use, I think this is certainly a good contender. I like that it works with the Carnival's backup camera. I just don't like the size as much, and if you need the e-bike compatibility, then I just maybe check out the 2-bike version. Otherwise, that'll do it for our look at the Kuat Transfer on our 2022 Kia Carnival. Thanks for watching.